Hello everyone, I'm Al from Valentyn.co and welcome to Endless Legend, a high fantasy 4X game that is rather unique and takes the established genre and mixes it entirely. It takes the detailed city management and expansion of the Civilization series, twisting it, and it does the exact same for Age of Wonders combat system. In it, your unique civilization has to struggle to save their world. A dark and deep winter is coming. Developed by Amplitude Studios, the game is currently available on Steam for Mac, Windows and Linux. And I have to say, this is quite an interesting 4X game entirely. But I do have to warn you, this is not a native Mac port. It uses the mono.framework installer to actually translate Microsoft's proprietary .NET code into something that can be used in OS X. Not that that should dissuade you though, the game is excellent and it's actually extremely beautiful. Let's just go into the options here and I'll quickly run you through that. Going to video, you can see I have it set to fantastic. The only difference between beautiful and fantastic really is the amount of pixel light count and the anti-aliasing. Everything else is essentially the same and it's really good. You can use VSync, I don't see the need. It's a turn-based game, you're not really doing something fast-paced to affect screen tearing, and you can also cap your maximum frame rate, which is actually easier than VSync. But word of warning to someone on OS X, a lot of people have reported, and I've experienced myself, that if you actually run the game in full screen, it will actually cause the game to go black, and nothing else will happen, even though the music will still play, and you have to restart the game entirely. This is something the developers are working on, but some people have had good success when using OS 10.10 Yosemite, especially the latest beta or the gold master candidates. Those should clear it up, and Windows users and Linux don't have any issues at all. Going to the advanced setting, you can see there's post-processing quality. I've got it set to high. Geometry is detailed. This just changes the shape of the hexagons on the floor. And it's a hexagon based strategy game, so you can just change the way they look. I've got it set to default. Depth of field, enhanced elevation animation. I particularly like these two and they've implemented it extremely well. Now if you're playing the game on a very high resolution such as myself, I do recommend going to UI and clicking big user interface. I'll just turn it off and show you what it looks like on default. As you can see, it is absolutely tiny. Going back to options, it's significantly smaller and it makes it really hard to get anything done, so I'd recommend turning that back on, and let's just validate that. Now in the game, there are 8 unique races, and this is an extremely complex game. More so I find in Civilization, especially coming from a game like that or Age of Wonders. Like I said, it twists the mechanics in a certain way and changes up the standard 4X mechanics. So let's quickly show you what a new game is like and different races, and I'll go into detail of what everything is like for you. Starting off, you can have up to 8 different empires playing against you, and that's the default amount. There are only 8, but there is a huge amount of independent civilizations that you can interact with, conquer, and assimilate into you, gaining bonuses from them. It's actually extremely interesting. They just happen to be very minor races instead of being empires themselves. Now I usually play as the Vultures. I do enjoy them, but each race is entirely unique. This isn't like Civilization, where it's just essentially a different skin with a few different bonuses. They all play entirely different, so I'd recommend trying out a few and seeing what it's like. I particularly like the Vultures. They're ranged units, they're very human-like, and I just associate better with them, but there are some really strange ones out there, like the Draken. Very ancient dragon-like reptiles, not very good technology-wise, but they have a wealth of military power, and some of their advanced technology is viewed as insignificant by the other races. Now the roving clans is very, very unique. They're very nomadic, and even in the sense that their cities move around. It's quite strange. I do recommend you try and play through all of them, but like I said, the game is quite complex. Once you select one, you can see their empire summary and the bonuses and unique stats that they have. It is quite different to a normal 4X game, very much so, and I do believe this is easily one of the best I've played in a while. I do find the game far more engaging than Civilization, and it has a very good pacing. Building units, building buildings, upgrading technology, all goes in a specific nice way. At the same time, like Civilization, you can change not only the difficulty but also the game speed from fast, normal, slow and endless. You can take your time to crush your components, 600 maximum turns. Not too bad. Personally, I don't like a turn limit at all such as this. I would personally prefer it where there is no turn limit whatsoever. But if you go to advanced settings, you can customize everything even more, including the victory conditions. Now let's get out of here, and I'll take you into the game and show you how it is quite different from other 4X games. We'll just load one of my games here for you. And here we go. Right from the go, you can see this game is extremely well detailed and rather beautiful. I do find it very appealing looking, and it's quite nice. As you can see when you zoom out, you can see the full effect of the entire city and scape. Now you will notice I only have 3 cities, and the area of influence is massive. This is entirely because the game doesn't work in a similar way to Age of Wonders or Civilization. Each city doesn't expand their borders ever so slowly. When you colonize an area, you take over the entire area. And each area actually has their own unique name and their own unique resources and attributes and local population. Zooming in here, you can see one of the little settlements I pacified and I'm slowly rebuilding to assimilate, called the Sisters of Mercy. It says it's a center of worship and study. The towns of Sisters of Mercy appear civilized and well run. They are certainly well run, though they become quite uncivilized if attacked, and they attacked me originally and I had to deal with them. Now zooming out again, you can see all the strategic resources and unique resources around and what they do. Now each one is quite unique, and depending on your civilization they will be used differently. Because I play the Vaulters, I can select a holy resource, such as up here where you can see 57 counting down for titanium. I've clicked that to activate it as my holy resource. This means I will get a 20% boost in research on each city, and it's quite good. Now it's only active for one more turn, and then I can change it to something else. And I've just recently discovered palladium, and as soon as I build an extractor on that, I can then extract that and get a bonus from that as well. And you can see it right here. I can zoom in quite close. The entire game runs the Unity engine and it looks surprisingly good. I mean, look at the surface detail here, zoomed in all the way. It's very detailed, especially for 4X, but the one thing that stands out the most is this. Just look at the topography as it changes and scales up and increases in height. You get this beautiful effect and growths all around the area. They did an outstanding job and I especially like it. Now, one thing that's quite unique is the skill tree, or should I say the lack of a skill tree. In this case, they've got a skill tier system. Going to research here, it's open up and here you can see it. It's quite unique. You have to actually research in at least 3 of these specific areas before you can move on to the next skill tree. Now, I'll zoom out and you can see all these different ones throughout the technological eras. As with most games, you start in one and have different areas. There's growth, military science and technology, and when it comes to resources and research. And you can see it going on for quite some time. Now this is why I say I don't like 4X games that force a turn limit on you. I would like to explore and research every single thing to understand in as much detail as possible. I really enjoy doing that for these games, and I feel that even 600 turns isn't that much. I already have 109 turns into the game and I've done quite a bit, even though I haven't done that much. Zooming out, you can see the detail and the size of this map. Just panning around. It's rather big indeed. 8 empires. You can see only established contact here with 2 really. Now going to the diplomacy screen, I'll show you just who I have. One person has already been defeated, and here you can see the people you're kind of dealing with. I do like this whole radar system. The further they're out, the less they like you, and the harder it is to actually communicate with them, up until the point where they're so far back you haven't met them yet, or they're dead. Right there is open war, a cold war, peace, and an alliance. Now, as you can see, I've got a peace treaty with both of these civilizations here, but a cold war is rather interesting. During this period, empires can attack each other's armies within neutral regions without declaring war on each other. An empire can freely attack enemies in its region. A player's armies can roam freely into other players' regions, with whom the player is at cold war with. So as long as you don't attack them in their own territory, you're fine. It's just a sort of aggression, really, between each other without doing too much as far as declaring war. Next is, of course, peace, where you can establish trade routes, and an alliance, where it gives you a huge host of benefits. And I would really recommend trying to be as friendly as possible. But then again, not everyone wants to be, and that could be very problematic. Now, clicking on one of these people, you can see it's like a really nice detailed screen, and I love the interface. They did a really good job. But looking at what you can propose and do, you'll notice there's a little purple star. That is the cost of influence. You actually gain influence by research, building embassies, and increasing your population in those areas. You can assign specific workers, kind of like specialist unit in civilization, to increase your influence. And if you're not very influential in your empire or with the other empires, things can get very problematic. You can't even propose basic things like giving a compliment, which takes 8 influence. Not only that, but influence plays a vital role. When you're actually deciding on what your empire is going to do, you get an empire plan for the future, in which case you can decide what resources and things your entire empire should focus on. It's quite interesting, and that also costs influence. So not only do you have to save influence for empire planning, which can take a huge amount of influence, up to 120, sometimes 300, depending on your empire plan, but you also need to have enough in reserve to actually have diplomatic relations with someone else. But one thing that I quickly want to show you is the combat. You can see here there's a little barricade around my new city of Linfdell. I'm actually under siege by these haunts, these somewhat undead things. And you can get them all around with their independent villages, sprouting armies and attacking you, but you can't pacify them either diplomatically or by bribing them, or of course by destroying them entirely. So I'm going to move my army here, which is 3 marines and a hero. Heroes can also be instilled in a city as a governor to help boost it in certain ways, and you can assign items for each. Clicking on the hero, you can see they've got equipment and a skill tree where you can level each themselves. Now the equipment bit is very fascinating. It reminds me a lot of Alpha Centauri, where not only can you design units with specific items, but you can also upgrade those items through research and then retrofit your items onto different units. Now because this is a hero, I can also include things like a tome, which, like this one, the Great Titanium Tome, will give +2 research per citizen on each city if she is the governor or station on that city. They give a host of benefits. Not only that, but you can also do the same for your military units and retrofit them. If I open the military screen up top and manage your unit armies, you can see even my settlers. Selecting them and clicking edit, I can actually equip them with different items. Now, some items use strategic resources, like titanium armor, and weapons need titanium resource. So you get that by building an extractor on those units. But without further ado, let's just get into the combat. I'll end my turn here, because it'll take another 2 turns before my army can actually engage them. But while my city is under siege, it is suffering from quite a lot of penalties. One thing you probably noticed when I click the end turn button, if you hover over it, you can not only see my empire and its global ranking, but also all the other empires. The developers did an outstanding job when it came to the interface. It's simple and clean, but very effective. Now each end of turn, if something specifically happened, you get a pop-up like this that you can dismiss or minimize. Here it'll show my capital city of Altair built a central marketplace and is now building a Marine 2. Marine 2 being the 2nd tier unit that's been upgraded with tier 2 weapons and armor. Now let's dismiss that. Clicking on my city here that's being sieged, you can see production and research and everything is 0000. That is because they're under siege, all except the center part where the actual city is located within the walls. So we need to break the siege as quickly as possible, and let's do that now. Got enough turns, and you can see my fortification is slowly dropping. You can increase this by also building, but let's get in there. Now this is an interesting screen. You'll notice it says reinforcements militia. Each city has a militia unit that is garrisoned there, and you can't take them out, but you can use them as reinforcements when you're attacking or being attacked in a certain radius around your city. Now you can also increase this by building specific fortification items within your city, which will increase the garrison, which is the normal units that you manufacture, or your militia units. Now here you can also set your global strategy for your units as offensive, defenses, or to hold their position. You can do it manually, you can spectate and let the computer do it, but just to see what it looks like, or you can just do auto and let them do themselves. Now you can also see my hero here and the amount of armies on the little chart there. Now I'm going to select offensive, manual, and ready to fight because I'm going to control this myself. Now this is interesting. You can see the map kind of spreads itself out, but we aren't taken to the city like Age of Wonders to fight at the city siege itself behind the walls. And it's not like Civilization where you just see the two units firing at each other and that is the end of it. As we zoom out, you can see this white border. That's the tactical map you're on. Moving in, you can see a detailed topography drawn up onto the areas. You can see these ice stalactites sticking out everywhere in stalagmites, giving a sort of cover for my units. The same with the tree line there, and you can see the topography all around. Now this is the deployment phase. Here you can move your characters around all around on those blue hexagons. This is the only area your units can move in. So first things first, you deploy your units in a strategic position so they can fight and defend themselves at the same time. Now, I would argue that deployment is actually sometimes even more important than the actual combat themselves. Unlike other games, each is done differently. You deploy once, but then afterwards you can keep moving around and attacking per turn. So we need to get our ranged units into position. All my units here are ranged, including my hero. So we're going to move the hero there, this unit in here, move that back there, and this one there. Perfect. Now, we've sorted our deployment and they've moved up a bit. This should give us a bit of an extra range and an arc to hit the enemy. So let's click ready. Now here you can see my targeting. You can see which units are attacking what. So ideally I want to take out the first two units first. So this unit here, the front ones, we're going to change them to these enemies and they ended. Now hovering over them, you can see the bonuses of each unit. My Marines ranked 3 versus the ended, which are flying units. So it actually works out perfectly for me. I've got ranged units that can fire in the air with all the extra bonuses with my hero, and then the ended. So now that I've targeted the units, I will now click launch, which means my units will attack, the enemy will attack, and then I get to redo this again. Note, units like this will move closer again to the optimal firing range, and the unit being attacked will glow red and take up a defensive position. Now I've done a significant amount of damage, and I've essentially just wiped out that group right there with my first barrage. My other Marines will move closer to get into a good firing position again. Now you can manually move your units between turns, but that'll actually cost them their move turn, and you don't usually want to do that per se. Now these ended are quite devastating. If they get close, I have a chain of lightning attack, which means if they hit my unit there, they can damage everyone down the road, unless I manage to block it. And there you go, they got a critical hit of 60, and they damaged everyone in the line at the back. Now right here in the back, you can see my reinforcements. My militia have moved in. They will be attacking these. Everyone else is attacking the unit in the back. That's perfect. The computer can calculate things quite well, but the user input is quite important. Oftentimes you will find that you could actually win manually when the computer would have gotten you in a very bad predicament and lost your entire army. Now we've essentially just won this quite handily, and we've ended the siege on my city. And just get rid of the last one, and there we go. Now the entire map will zoom back out and everything will move back in closer towards each other. There we go, and everything is back to normal. It's a beautiful system. I actually really enjoy that. Now you can see my units have gotten 22.7 experience and they level up as things go. Now this is a very interesting. I moved to my capital here. You can see there's my capital city, but the walls have increased, and so have the farming lands and that resources, but you can see these parts here. These are boroughs, essentially an expansion of your city, which expands its little area, radius, and effect. Not only that, but you can see I've got a building right there. That's an extractor or titanium extractor. As long as a resource is inside your area of domain, which is this entire area of the blue here, you can build an extractor on it. But you can also use a borough as an extractor. So if I build a next borough, right there on top of that strategic resource of adamantium, that'll be extracted at the same time. Now, you do have to be very careful of early expansion. The game isn't like Civilization, like I said. You can see the radius of effect is quite small around a city, but the entire region is under your control simply by colonizing it. This means every focus of the game is far more centered around a single important city or few small important ones than expanding very quickly, rapidly with cities everywhere. You simply can't build another city close by without having a lot of issues. Even then, simply expanding as far away here as I did in Lentville, if we click here and hover over content, you can see I have minus 20 happiness from expanding. People don't approve of expansion that much, and the same with building boroughs. Boroughs help significantly in resource production, science, and fortification, especially later on through research, but they do make your people quite unhappy. Drop too low and of course, things are going to go very bad. Staying here in the City Resource Center, you can see my extra citizens or production workers, and you can move them around all the way from influence, dust, which is the main currency, not gold, to science, production, and of course food. Now the game has a very unique system. As you can see, I've got an ice area here, but that isn't the only ice area. Winter cycles through the game. The game has seasons. It'll go from summer to winter. In winter, units can't see as far, they can't move as far. Food production and production overall drop significantly, which means you do need to have something very important, such as winter shelters. And that's a resource unit you can get through doing a quest, or actually just by researching it. Now this city here in the Arctic area is building a winter shelter. By resurrecting the dormant though not forgotten arts of subterranean architecture and horticulture, the vaulters can construct shelters to negate the worst effects of winter. This essentially eliminates all the food production issues that you have in winter, which can cripple a city so badly that it could actually force the population to decline rapidly. So you have to be very careful. Not only that, but you have to try and unify the entire planet and continent and civilizations before the deep freeze happens and the end of the world is coming. Now the game is very complex and nuanced, and I really enjoy it. Now moving on to the lists of quests. Each empire have their own unique quests that are done, but you can also encounter different ones from random areas. You can see here that one of them is build a winter shelter in the city of Valentyn. Now I've done that, my roll was 160 dust. The second one is build 2 boroughs in that city, which is quite difficult. As I mentioned before, it can cause a lot of unrest and issues, but a lot of benefits. And you can see it slowly expanding and being constructed there. Moving on, like all 4X games, the game has a very detailed and comprehensive city list, where you can see the heroes assigned to it, the factions that are in that area, and their details. Now the factions are what I mentioned as the small roaming forces, like the ones of the haunts that attacked me. Now I did pacify the haunts, and in order to assimilate them I have to rebuild their town. Now I already clicked that icon, but if you move in you can see, even though it's on fire, it's got little construction parts all around it and it's being reconstructed. Once it's reconstructed, their specific units, those ended, can then be manufactured by me. Here is another one I pacified, but if we zoom out you can see the entire area is white. It's completely independent in the continent area of Terreal. Moving in you can see it's completely on fire. Now let's move to a different one here. Where did they go? There we go. There they are, the Ursus village. These are a big bunch of giants, and you can see they give a nice amount of effects, such as cold grassland, +1 food, +1 from terrain plains, cold grass, +1 dust, and 5% unit production. I can now build their units in my city, even though I don't really want to, and I prefer my own units entirely. Now, exploration is quite fun. It's quite simple as well. Simply clicking on your unit and clicking the button there, which is auto explore, means they kind of do around and kind of find everything you want. The only problem is they usually focus entirely just on your blue area or whatever color your race is. Now, the race is all done manually, and I really enjoy it. I have to say, it's a really complex and deep 4X game that can take hours. I've gotten about 5 hours into this game, and I've barely scratched the surface. But I do think that it is more than enough time to give you a very early first impression of it. And I decided to pick a very huge map, and it's obviously going to take me a lot of time to get anything done in it. But that's the way I like my 4X games. Not everyone else might. But let's move into a new city, a very new one, to see just how balanced the game is when it comes to production and times. Clicking on this, the city's barely been built, but if you scroll up, winter shelters 72 hours. That's a significant amount of time, and that'll take just way too many turns to get anything done. So to speed that up, we'll take some of these workers and move them into production. Just moving 3 alone dramatically increases it. Look, 15 turns now instead of 72. But, my people are not very happy. City approval, plus 60, that's very good, but minus 20 from expansion. I've been expanding too quickly, which means my people aren't very happy. And then when you look at the global scores down here at the bottom and I hover over it, I'm in a lot of trouble. I've only got 253 points for global score, the highest being 501. So I'm not expanding quick enough. But if I do expand too quickly, my people are going to start revolting. And that is a lot of hassle, and I don't want to deal with that just yet. So you have to try and find a balance between everything and micromanage. Now, unlike Civilization, you can't just assign a governor and leave a city in its own place. You can, though, install a hero as a governor, but I only have one, and I really don't want to do that just yet. So you really have to micromanage each city. The nice thing, though, about the whole construction system here is you can actually schedule things all the way down for hundreds of turns. If you have something you can build or building, just slap them all in. You can then move them around and slot them around just by pulling them around like that. It's a very intuitive system, very detailed and quite well organized. I really enjoy it. It makes things quite easy. At the same time, you can always buy out something to make it go quicker. So not only can you really schedule everything out in between, I would recommend that. Your city can't actually stockpile production or science, so you have to get everything done as much as possible. So if you want to get something done permanently, you have to schedule out your research and production well in advance. This is where the entire empire plans come in very handy. Now zooming in here, you can see that point there, that research point, a dust refinery, has a 13 next to it. That means that is number 13 on the list to be researched, and you can really go all between them. You only need to research a certain amount of points, usually 3 in each tier of each specific area, to move on to the next tier of technology, and then you can do it again and again. Moving to tier 2, you can see one of them is research point number 20. It'll take 20 research items before I get to that, even though it's in a tier behind tier 3. So you can really prioritize what you want to get through and get those strategic resources, military units or buildings that you need, and then you can gradually scale back and just schedule them all the way you want. At the same time, looking at the bottom, you can see the nominal research per turn is 1104. That's, well, obviously the best you could possibly have to get everything done really quickly. Unfortunately, my research output per turn is 87. That's extremely small. Extremely. But that's because I'm focusing a lot more of my workers on production to get the main city refinements I need before I go towards research. At the same time, though, I now have the ability to select my holy resource. So, glass steel will give me plus 20% dust production on each city, and titanium will give me 20 research. I really need dust at the moment. I only have 5 per turn of income after all my deductions, and I do need that to retrofit units and increase my expenditure. So I'll be doing that. Yes, I want this as my Empire boost. And now this will stay there if you hover over it for 10 turns. And then afterwards, I can use something else. Now the same can be done for palladium or any other specific resource that you get. Now this is quite unique to the Vaulters, so I do recommend you try and play around with the other racers as well. Now let's move on with our turn. We've been stuck there for quite some time. One thing that would be nice though, is to actually have a different, bigger icon for each unique resource. Now zooming out, you can see them quite detailed. I prefer them to be a bit better, really. Then again, you can always turn on the resource button. That does this, and oh wow, I certainly can't handle that. That is just too much stuff on the screen at the same time, and it becomes a bit of an eyesore. So let's just turn off the resource bit again, and let's do some exploring and see what we can get. Where is that army at? There we go. And let's move all the way down here. Now that little Haunts town is destroyed from the looks of it. So let's click on the city, and now it has a little bulb icon on it. So if I click that, we will now rebuild it, and we'll get a bonus from that. Not only from that one, but because we have a second one being constructed right there, we'll get an extra bonus from them as well, which is increased science. Something that's perfect for me and something I need. Oh! And what do we have here? We have another Haunt Miner village. So let's go take them on and pacify them as well. Now depending on the individuals that you meet and their small towns, you can either bribe them to make them passive, or you can do quests for them. Usually if you do a quest for them, they become pacified and assimilate really quickly. Fortunately, the only option I have is to attack them. Everyone seems to be quite aggressive to me in this area. So let's just do that and deal with them entirely now. So I've got my hero and my 4 units of rangers. Fortunately, they haven't fully healed yet, but we'll deal with that. So there's the beautiful strategic map again. Now you can see it actually moves into the green area of my enemy as well. Not really a friend yet. So let's move these in here. Hero down there. Get them as close as possible. Perfect. So we'll deploy them. Let's change these around to there for attacking. You can attack there. You there. Hero there. Now they'll move into position and do their attack. Perfect. Now my upgraded units do a significant amount of damage and are far more powerful than the enemy, so this is not an issue for me at all. I just have to be careful when they get close. Remember, they do a chain lightning attack, and that's the last thing I want right now. But then again, one of them is already dead, and if my hero can get a critical hit or a decent amount of damage, sadly I didn't get that kill in. Oh well. Ooh, that's a lot of damage. Oh, and the third unit has just spawned. I probably missed that on the strategic map somehow. Not to worry. Get rid of them fairly quickly. They're very far behind. Now a point blank hit from these guys should take him out. No problem. Let's leap on. Yeah. 97. That's a massive amount of damage. And there we go. We've essentially won this and pacified that village. Now because they're in my area of control and in my region, I can now assimilate them by rebuilding their village. Perfect. And now it's in ruins, so we'll go up, select our town, zoom back in. Oh, and it's just a bit too far away for me. Nope, there we go. And there we go. Ooh, a dye extractor. Let's build that as well. Now the problem with this little town up here is it's very new, very small. But my discontent from expansion has dropped because I've pacified someone in my area. So let's see. Oh, it's going to take an awful lot of time to get something done here. Yeah, 3 villages to rebuild, and it'll be 125 turns before that's done. A significant amount. So let's keep exploring and move through the green area. Oh, and we finally met them. Oh, well, hello. Greetings. Let's hear of our emperors can live together in harmony. So we're at a Cold War because we don't know each other well. Mildly jealous. Oh, we have a common frontier. I see. I see. So that's this area. And they're mildly jealous of us. Quite interesting. So let's click, yep. Let's see, what can we do with them? Where are they? So we're in the Cold War area, and they're mildly jealous. Let's see. Doesn't really say much, except that they're mildly jealous of me. Frozen peace. Oh, I have a very high chance of that succeeding. You can see it on the little bar there. Green is quite up. Quite well. So let's reset. So we can compliment them. Oh wow, look at their influence. 537. Wow, I'm playing the game on easy and I'm quite far behind, it seems. Quite far behind. So let's end our turn. Zoom back in. I do like the game graphics. The pop-ups are quite delayed, as you can see. Not very good. I'm not too fond of that. Oh. Okay. So, we will all process with continuous peace. Oh, she's just saying, fine, we're peaceful, good stuff. But she's also kind of mocking me, because they have a higher number of sittings at a higher global score. And the thing is, though, my army, even though it's significantly smaller than most other armies, is quite powerful and quite well upgraded, so that's not too bad. One more turn, and those Marines are done. Perfect. Perfect. Now, I have to warn you though, even though I really enjoy this game and I've got a good few hours in, it does have a lot of little crashes, and I don't know why. It just randomly, on each turn, it'll just stop. It'll crash the desktop and say, there's a crash log next to the game directory, please send to the developer. And that happens quite a bit. I don't know why, it's rather annoying, but it doesn't affect it too much. The game does save every turn, which is fine by me. Oh, the Emperor of Jingan is making a declaration to you. We have decided to implement this new policy. Close borders? Fine, they're closing their borders on me, so I need to get the hell out. That's not very nice. And my population in evolution has grown. Very nice. A new empire plan will be unlocked in 6 turns. Save some influence points if you intend to implement critical policies. Now this is quite important. Let's skip ahead to that part then, shall we? And here we go. We can now set up our empire plan. Now this is extremely important, and this is one of the reasons why you want to save up influence points. Now you can see economic and population, military, science and industry, and empire and expansion. You change these by simply moving this around, but as you can see, if I max out one, or if I do all of them, the cost is simply astronomical and not recommended at all. Now I have 147 points, and I prefer to get dust as much as possible because I use it to buy out buildings and items. So the most I can put in is 60. Now remember, this increases with each tier of technology that you unlock in the technology tree, and the more you advance and amount of cities you have. So I can only put in 60. Yeah, 60 in each. Which shall we do? Research. Actually, unit cost reduction on cities. Perfect. I'll do that. And gold. Sorry, dust. I keep saying that. And there we go. Now I've covered essentially everything in the game besides going into detail of every single little race. I do recommend this game, and it is fantastic, especially if you like complex and fantasy based civilization games and a deep detailed 4X game. Now unfortunately the game does suffer from a few crashes here and there, and a lot of Mac users have issues with it can't run the game in full screen, but they just get a blank black screen. Now, even with those issues, I would still heartily recommend this game for anyone that's a big 4X fan. It is simply outstanding. The music is superb, the graphics absolutely stunning. Even zooming out this far, all the way in, right to there, is buttery smooth and works beautifully. The game is also so complex and different enough from other 4X games that you really have to sink your teeth into it and even play through the tutorial, which is quite well done and quite detailed, although I would have preferred a bit more really. Even so, Amplitude Studios have outdone themselves significantly compared to other games, And if you like this, you should definitely look at their game Endless Space, which is quite good indeed. It is a sci-fi based 4X. It seems that Amplitude Studios have an affinity for changing 4X around and fiddling with it and making it a bit better, I feel. Now, between this, Civilization, and Age of Wonders, between those three you get an archetype of fantasy and historical 4X, but all being uniquely different in their own. And as I said before, I would heartily recommend this game to any 4X lover, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more Mac gameplay coverage. I'm Mal, thanks for watching everyone, and enjoy your 4X adventures. Bye bye!